What's this all about? Michael Smithson says ignorance, not knowing something, isn't just a mistake or a bad thing. It's something we create and use in our daily lives, just like we create and use knowledge. He thinks we should study ignorance because it shapes how we talk, work, and get along with each other. Instead of thinking ignorance is just missing the truth, he says it's something we build together through social rules and habits. Let's dive into his big ideas with some examples to make it relatable. 1. Ignorance is made by people, not just a lack of knowing. Smithson says ignorance isn't just when you don't know something because no one told you. It's something we actively create through how we talk and act. Imagine you're at a family dinner and your aunt avoids talking about her new job because she's worried it'll start an argument. She's choosing to keep everyone ignorant about it to keep the peace. That's ignorance being created on purpose. Or think about a surprise birthday party. You don't tell your friend about the party because the surprise is the fun part. That's another way we make ignorance. It's not bad, it's just part of the plan to make things special. Smithson's point is that ignorance depends on what someone thinks is important to know, and we all decide that together in our own groups. 2. Old ideas about ignorance miss the point. A lot of people use to think ignorance is just wrong thinking or not having the right facts, like getting an answer wrong on a test. Smithson says that's too simple. He argues there's no single right way to know everything, and assuming there is can make us miss how ignorance works. For example, in school, a teacher might say, "You got the math problem wrong." But maybe you didn't know that formula because no one taught it to you yet. That's not your fault, it's just how things are set up. He also points out that many folks assume everyone agreeing on everything makes life smooth. But that's not always true. Think about a group project at work. If everyone knew everything about the project, you might argue over every detail. Sometimes, not knowing all the nitty-gritty lets you focus on your part and get along better. 3. Ignorance helps us get along. Smithson says ignorance isn't always a problem. It can actually help us in lots of ways. Here are a few examples. Politeness. When you meet someone new and they say, "I'm fine," you don't ask, "Are you really fine? What's wrong?" That'd be rude. By not digging deeper, you're keeping things friendly, and that's a kind of ignorance we all agree to use. Privacy and secrets. Imagine your best friend has a crush but doesn't want to tell anyone yet. You respect that by not asking too many questions. That's ignorance helping keep their privacy safe. Learning and creativity. Ever try to solve a puzzle? Not knowing the answer at first is what makes you curious and pushes you to figure it out. Smithson says being aware you don't know something can lead to awesome discoveries. Work and organizations. In a big company, the boss doesn't need to know how to fix the printer, and the guy doesn't need to know the marketing plan. Everyone has their own ignorance zones so they can focus on their job without getting overwhelmed. 4. Different kinds of ignorance. Smithson gives us a way to think about different types of ignorance, like sorting them into buckets. Here is a friendly take on a few. Wrong ideas. Erroneous ignorance. This is when you believe something that's not quite right. Like, maybe you think pineapples grow on trees. They don't, they grow on the ground. You're not dumb, you just picked up a wrong idea somewhere. Not knowing enough. Incomplete ignorance. This is when you're missing some info. For example, if your baking system, the user asked for a friendly explanation of the article toward a social theory of ignorance by Michael Smithson, using simple language and more examples without specifying a child audience. Below is a continuation of the response, completing the explanation in a conversational style with additional examples, avoiding overly academic terms, and ensuring the explanation remains engaging and relatable. Cooking and only know the recipe for spaghetti. You might not know how to make sushi. That's incomplete ignorance. Smithson breaks this down further. Missing info. You don't know something at all, like not knowing your neighbor's middle name because you never asked. Vague or fuzzy ideas. You might know a restaurant is somewhere downtown, but not the exact address. That's vague. Ambiguous ideas. If someone says, "Meet me later," but doesn't say when or where, that's ambiguous and it leaves you unsure. Irrelevant ideas. Some things we don't know because they're not supposed to matter to us. For example, topical irrelevance. If you're a baker, you don't need to know how to fix a car engine, it's not your thing. Taboo. Some topics, like asking about someone's salary, are off limits because society says it's rude to know. Undecidable. Ever wonder if aliens exist? Some questions don't have clear answers, so we just don't know. Knowing you don't know, conscious ignorance. This is when you realize you're missing something, like noticing you don't know how to change a car tire and deciding to learn. It's what pushes you to grow. Not knowing you don't know, meta-ignorance. This is trickier. It's when you don't even realize you're missing something. Like, imagine you're using an old phone and don't know there's a newer, faster model out there. Someone else might think you're ignorant for not upgrading, but you didn't even know it was an option. On purpose versus by accident. Sometimes we choose ignorance, like not checking your ex's social media to avoid getting upset. That's intentional. Other times, it's accidental, like not knowing the grocery store closed early because you didn't check the hours. 5. How we make ignorance happen. Smithson says we create ignorance through how we talk and what we choose to share or hide. Think about these examples. Vague talking. If your friend asks, "How's work?" and you say, "Oh, it's okay," instead of explaining a bad day, you're keeping them a bit ignorant to avoid a long story. Not sharing. At a poker game, you don't show your cards to keep others guessing. That's intentional ignorance to win. Politeness rules. When your co-worker brings in weird-tasting cookies, you say, "They're great," instead of "These are awful." That little white lie creates ignorance to keep things nice. Secret codes. In a group chat, you might use emojis or slang only your friends understand. Outsiders are left ignorant because they don't know the code. We also have rules about what's okay to know. For instance, you don't ask your teacher about their dating life. That's private. Or in some families, talking about politics is a no-go to avoid fights. These rules shape what we know and don't know. 6. Why ignorance matters. Smithson's big idea is that ignorance isn't just a flaw, it's a huge part of how we live together. It helps us keep things smooth. Not knowing every detail about your friend's bad mood lets you hang out without awkwardness. Protect privacy. If your neighbor doesn't tell you about their family drama, that's their choice, and it keeps boundaries clear. Spark curiosity. Not knowing how to bake a cake might inspire you to watch a cooking show and learn. Run organizations. At a restaurant, the chef doesn't need to know how to balance the books, and the accountant doesn't need to know how to make sushi. Ignorance lets everyone focus on their role. Plus, with so much information out there, think Google, TikTok, etc., there's also an ignorance explosion. No one can know everything about computers, medicine, or law, so we rely on experts and sometimes stay ignorant about stuff outside our lane. Wrapping it up, Smithson wants us to see ignorance as a normal, useful part of life, not something to be ashamed of. It's like choosing not to read spoilers before a movie. You stay ignorant to enjoy the surprise. Or when you let your friend keep their new haircut a secret until they're ready to show it off. Ignorance is built into how we talk, keep secrets, stay polite, and even learn new things. By understanding it, we can see how it shapes our friendships, families, and workplaces every day.